Chapter 2. Standing in Prayer. He used to stand in prayer for both obligatory and voluntary prayers, carrying out the command of the Exalted, and stand before Allah devoutly. Quran 2.238. As for during a journey, he would pray voluntary prayers on his riding beast. He set the example for his ummah to pray during severe fear on foot or while mounted, as has been mentioned, and that is the purpose of the saying of Allah, standing in prayer guard strictly your habit of prayers, especially the middle prayer, and stand before Allah devoutly. If you fear an enemy, then pray on foot or while riding. But when you are in security, celebrate Allah's praises in the manner He has taught you, which you did not know before. Quran Al-Baqarah 238-239. He prayed sitting during the illness of which he died. He also prayed sitting on another occasion before that, when he was injured, and the people behind him prayed standing. So he indicated to them to sit, so they sat and prayed. When he finished, he said, "You were going to do as the Persians and the Romans do, stand for their kings who sit. So do not do so, for the Imam is there to be followed. When he makes ruku, make ruku. When he rises, rise. And when he prays sitting, pray sitting, all of you." 2.1. The prayer of a sick person in a sitting position. Imran bin Hussein said, "I was suffering from hemorrhoids, piles, so I asked the Messenger of Allah, and he said, pray standing. If you are not able, then sitting down. If you are not able to do so, then pray lying down." Imran bin Hussein also said, "I asked him about the prayer of a man while sitting, so he said, he who prays standing, that is better. He who prays sitting, his reward is half that of the former. He who prays lying down, and in another narration reclining, has half the reward of the one who sits." This applies to the sick person, for Anas said, "The Messenger of Allah came out to the people while they were praying sitting due to illness. So he said, verily the prayer of one who sits is worth half of the prayer of the one who stands." Once he visited a sick person and saw him praying, leaning on a pillow, so he took it and cast it aside. So the man took a stick to pray, leaning on it, but he took it and cast it aside and said, "Pray on the ground if you can, but otherwise make movements with your head, making your sujud lower than your ruku." 2.2. Prayer on a ship. He was asked about prayer on a ship, so he said, "Pray on it standing, unless you are afraid of drowning." When he grew old, he took a support at his place of prayer to lean on. 2.3. Sitting and standing in Salah al-Tahajjud. He used to pray long through the night standing and long through the night sitting. And if he recited standing, he would bow standing, and if he recited sitting, he would bow sitting. Sometimes he would pray sitting, so he would recite sitting until about 30 or 40 verses of his recitation were left. He would then stand up to recite these standing and then bow and prostrate, and he would do likewise. In the second rak'ah, in fact, he prayed al-Subha, sitting down towards the end of his life. When he had grown old, and that was a year before his death, also he would sit cross-legged. 2.4. Prayer wearing shoes and the command to do so. He used to stand in prayer barefooted sometimes, and wearing shoes sometimes. He allowed this for his ummah, saying, when one of you prays, he should wear his shoes or take them off and put them between his feet, and not harm others with them. He encouraged prayer wearing them sometimes, saying, "Be different from the Jews, for they do not pray in their shoes nor in their cuffs," leather socks. Occasionally he would remove them from his feet while in prayer and then continue his prayer, as Abu Sa'id al-Khudri has said. "The Messenger of Allah prayed with us one day. Whilst he was engaged in the prayer, he took off his shoes and placed them on his left. When the people saw this, they took off their shoes. When he finished his prayer, he said, 'Why did you take your shoes off?' They said, 'We saw you taking your shoes off, so we took our shoes off.' He said, 'Verily Jibril came to me and informed me that there was dirt,' or he said something harmful. In another narration, 'filth,' on my shoes, so I took them off. Therefore, when one of you goes to the mosque, he should look at his shoes. If he sees in them dirt, or he said something harmful, in another narration, filth, he should wipe them and pray in them. When he removed them, he would place them on his left, and he would also say, when one of you prays, he should not place his shoes on his right nor on his left, where they will be on someone else's right, except if there is no one on his left, but he should place them between his feet." 2.5. Prayer on the minbar, pulpit. Once he prayed on the pulpit, in another narration, which had 3 steps. Hence he stood on it and said Takbir and the people behind him. said takbir while he was on the pulpit, then he made ruku on the pulpit, then he rose and descended backwards to make sajda at the foot of the pulpit. Then he returned and did on it as he had done in the first rak'ah, until he completed his prayer. He then turned to the people and said, "O people, I have done this so that you may follow me and learn my prayer." 2.6. The sutra and the obligation to have one. He used to stand near to the sutra so that there was a distance of 3 cubits between him and the wall and between the place of his prostration. And the wall there was enough space for a sheep to pass. He used to say, "Do not pray except towards a sutra, and do not let anyone pass in front of you, but if someone continues to try to pass then, fight him, for he has a companion, i.e. a shaitan with him." He would also say, "When one of you prays towards a sutra, he should get close to it so that shaitan cannot break his prayer." Sometimes he sought to pray at the pillar which was in his mosque. When he prayed in an open space where there was nothing to use, as sutra, he would plant a spear in the ground in front of him and pray towards it with the people behind him. Sometimes he would to set his mount sideways and pray towards it. But this is not the same as prayer in the resting place of camels, which he forbade, and sometimes he would take his saddle, set it lengthwise and pray towards its end. He would say, when one of you places in front of him something, such as a stick or the end of a saddle, he should pray and not mind anyone who passes beyond it. Once he prayed towards a tree, and sometimes he would pray towards the bed on which Aisha was lying under her sheet, and he would not let anything pass between him and his sutra, hence. Once he was praying when a sheep came running in front of him, he raced it until he pressed his belly against the wall and it passed behind him. Also once while praying an obligatory prayer, he clenched his fist during it, so when he had finished, the people said, "O Messenger of Allah, did something happen during the prayer?" He said, "No, except that the devil wanted to pass in front of me, so I strangled him until I could feel the coldness of his tongue on my hand. By Allah, had my brother Suleiman not beaten me to it, I would have tied him, the devil, to one of the pillars of the mosque so that the children of Madinah could walk round him. So whoever can prevent something intervening between him and the Qibla, he must do so." He also used to say, "When one of you prays towards something which is a sutra between him and the people, and someone intends to cross in front of him, then he should push him in the throat and repel as much as he can. In one narration, he should stop him twice. But if he refuses to not pass, then he should fight him, for verily he is a devil." He also used to say, if the person who passed in front of praying knew the sin on him, it would be better for him to wait 40 than to pass in front. Abu al-Nada said, "I do not remember exactly whether he said 40 days, months, or years." 2.7. What breaks the prayer? He used to say, a man's prayer is cut off when there is nothing, such as the end of a saddle in front of him, by a menstruating woman, a donkey, or a black dog. Abu Dar said, "I said, O Messenger of Allah, why the black dog rather than the red one?" He said, "The black dog is a shaitan." 2.8. Prohibition of prayer facing graves. He used to forbid prayer facing the graves, saying, "Do not pray towards the graves and do not sit on them."